What's going on, YouTube? It is me. I am back again after it's been a month. It's been a month since I've last been on here. Been busy doing some other stuff. My wife and I, we jumped into a business venture together, so I've been busy, tied up with that. So kind of excited about it. It's looking very, very promising. So I'm really happy about that. But anyway, just want to jump on here so you guys can see my face. Don't want you to forget about me and talk about something real quick. There's a lot going on in sports right now, especially here in Atlanta. You can go back to last Wednesday when the Braves blew an opportunity to advance into the playoffs. They had game five right here in their own backyard, the first round of the playoffs. Right here at SunTrust Park, had a chance to move on against the Cardinals, or beat the Cardinals and move on to the next round. And what did they do? They give up 10 runs in the first inning. So boom, bye-bye. On vacation, season over just like that. Didn't even show up. Right here, you got the deciding game right here in your stadium, and you give up 10 runs in the first inning. Not prepared. Who else? University of Georgia, Georgia Bulldogs, which I'm not a fan. I really don't care, but they're ranked number three, or at least they were, going into Saturday's game against South Carolina, an unranked South Carolina team, and they lose that in overtime. And that game was played right here, well, in their backyard, right there in Athens, right there on campus. So, yeah. And then the Falcons. The Falcons. Okay, they weren't playing here at home, but with the season that they're having thus far, sometimes you look at your schedule and you say, okay, whenever you have a losing streak happening, you look at your schedule and you see teams listed, and you say, okay, this is an opportunity for us to get right, because as bad as we're playing right now, surely we can go and beat this team. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we were supposed to do this past Sunday, going out to Arizona and playing Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. And what did we do? Just like the Braves did against the Cardinals baseball team, we did this. Well, I'm not going to say we did the same exact thing against the Cardinals football team, but because we actually put up points. We put up points against Arizona, but we lose that game by 1 point because we missed the extra point that would have tied the game with a minute and a half. But it's pretty much the same story as it's been all season with the Falcons, and that was the defense giving up a lot of points. So that's why we lost that game. But yeah, Atlanta sports is suffering right now. That's just what it is. So a lot of depressed people walking around here. But anyway, don't want to talk about Atlanta sports. But I am going to stay on the topic of the NFL. What's going on with the officiating? What is up with these bad officials? And what are they going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? I mean, there's nothing I personally can do, but I mean, it's just bad optics right now, man. You know, you go back to last season, okay? You had that call, between the Saints and the Rams that was just obvious to everybody who was watching, and I guess in the off season, the NFL say, hey, okay, we can't just let that go. We got to do something. We got to let the fans know we're doing something about it. So they go into the off season talking about this. I'm sure of it. And the thing is, I think that they're focusing so much on, the big calls, the obvious calls, that they're missing some of the simple stuff. Just they're calling stuff that shouldn't be, because and the reason I'm talking about this is because the Monday Night Football game. If you guys watched that, like I did, the game between Detroit and Green Bay, you saw three bad calls. Well, two, I'm gonna say two phantom calls, calls that should not have been called, and then there was one call that they just totally missed. That was just as obvious as anything we've seen before. And unfortunately, all those calls or non-calls went against the Detroit Lions. And that is heartbreaking. You had two personal foul calls of illegal hands to the face on Trey Flowers. And when you look at the replay, it was obvious to the announcers in the booth and everybody at home and probably the people there in the stadium, even, even though they were, excuse me, even though that game was played in Green Bay, I'm sure the Green Bay fans saw on the jumbotron up there that it was a bad call. It was an awful call. Trey Flowers had his hands or his hand right up in the shoulder pads of Bakhtiari. Okay, the offensive tackle, and it just, and it's bad because the referee was standing right there looking at it, and I don't know if he just felt like Trey Flowers should not have been able to move a guy that size, the size of Bakhtiari, with one hand the way that he was doing. So maybe he just assumed that it was a face mask. But Trey Flowers on both of those instances had his hand in the exact same spot, right in the shoulder pads. And it's just heartbreaking to see that because those were those calls were made at really important times where uh, the Lions had them stopped. They had Green Bay stopped, with a chance to get the ball back. And I think both of those calls gave Green Bay a fresh set of downs. So when you have a defense playing as well as the Detroit Lions were playing, it just seems like they weren't getting rewarded. It felt like the hard work was being taken away by the officials. Okay, and then to make matters worse, when they get on offense, they got a long pass downfield, and the guy, their receiver, I forget who he is, but the Lions receiver basically gets clotheslined before the ball gets there, and the referee doesn't call anything. That was an obvious pass interference. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I hear analysts say a lot that games don't necessarily come down to one play. It's not about the referees. If the team had four quarters, to win the game outright, the game should never be placed on the officials, or if you miss a field goal, it should never come down to a field goal because you have your opportunities throughout the game to not make the other mistakes that you make throughout the game to put you in that position. But here's the truth of the matter. We're talking about professional sports, okay? Everybody you face is a professional out there. So, I mean, the chances of you just going out and beating a team by 20 and 30 points every game, that's not going to happen. Even if you are the Patriots, you're just not going to do that every game. You're going to have some series where you may go three and out. You may have a fumble here, turn the ball over, blah, blah, blah. And the truth of the matter is games sometimes do come down to one play, and the referee should not be the deciding factor in any game. Okay. Now I know Matt Stafford didn't play flawless, in that game, but neither did Aaron Rodgers. He had some passes that didn't go his way. So nobody played a flawless game. Is the point I'm making, and you'd be hard pressed to find any game this season where the quarterback is just on point or the defense is on point and the offense is just running like a well-oiled machine. No, it doesn't happen game in and game out. So games do sometimes come down to you know last play of the game or a field goal. But when games are tight like that, the officiating should not be the deciding factor because that's unfair to the guys that are on the field. I mean, these guys practice, every day, and then they show up on game day and they leave their hearts out there on the field, man. And then you got these three calls, two phantom calls that because, like I said, there was no face, no hands to the face on Trey Flowers. It's just two bad calls, and then you get a none call that goes against them as well, a pass interference call that was totally ignored. You know, that game, say what you want to say, but that game was taken from Detroit. They played their butts off, and they did that in Green Bay. They deserved to win that game, and it was taken away because of bad officiating. And this is a shame. It's a shame. Here we are in week 6. Week 6 of going into week 7 now of the 100th season of the NFL. We're supposed to be celebrating, this great sport of ours this year in a big fashion. And what has been the headlines thus far here in week 7, going into week 7? What have been the major headlines? Antonio Brown, unfortunately, which is, I guess, trying to die out a little bit, and bad officiating. We're talking about all the wrong things here. We should be talking about great games, you know. Instead, we're talking about stuff that shouldn't be happening, So the NFL, they got to do something. They got to get this right. Now, from what I understand, they had I think, some type of meeting down in Miami this week. I don't know if it was an owners meeting or some type of NFL players something meeting. I don't know. I think it was an owners meeting. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they had a meeting, and I heard that the officiating was on the menu. It was part of the talks this week. So we'll see, in the upcoming weeks what they come up with, what they're going to do to correct this, because this is a problem. This is a problem, and it's diluting the product on the field. I mean, you got diehards like myself. I'm not going anywhere because I love the game so much, but you got people who are just casual fans, and when they see stuff like this, it can be a turnoff, you know. That's when they flip the channel and start watching, I don't know, something else, Netflix or something, they've been talking about the stats and people not watching the game like they used to, although stats still show that viewership is high. It's just not as high as it once was. Well, I'm going to tell you this, bad officiating, the stuff that I saw on Monday night, it's not helping. It's not helping the NFL at all. So they got to do something. They got to do something because as a fan of the sport, I'm I don't like what I'm seeing. And I don't want to see any more of this going forward. I hear people talk about, and this has been going on for a while, that there's a human element to the game, with the referees and the umpires and in baseball and things like that. Because, at one point they was talking about, and I think they're probably still talking about this, getting some type of computerized robot or something like that to monitor the strikes and the balls during a baseball game. And people were speaking out against that. I mean, some folks are for it because they want accuracy, but then you got the purists who say, well, you're taking away the human element of the game. Well, my thing is this, when the human element is deciding who moves on in the playoffs, who gets a chance to go to the Super Bowl and who goes home for the season, then something has to be done. Now, I'm not up for, referees and umpires losing their job, but listen, we need a better way to officiate these games if they're going to continue to go the way that they are. I mean, we have replay. Why can't we just overturn that? I mean, they got these silly rules about, after 2 minutes, it can only be reviewed here, and you can only challenge it between this time and the last 2 minutes of the half, or stuff like that. I'm against that. As long as we have replay, how about we just make sure we get it right? Is it going to extend the game? Probably not by that much. I mean, the most important thing is that the right play, the right call is made on the field. That's the most important thing of all. I mean, we owe that to the players themselves. No team should lose a game because of a bad call. And we just saw three on Monday night against one team, which did, in my opinion, cost them the game. So let's get it right. Whatever it takes, let's do that because this is getting hard to watch. I mean, I love this sport. Whether it's college or NFL, I love it. I don't want to see it go out like this. So let's get it right. Let's do it for the fans. Let's do it for the players and the coaches. Let's do it for the owners of the team. All right, everybody who enjoys the game, let's do it for them. I mean, the NFL, hey, you owe it to them. You owe it to us. I mean, we're the reason you guys have that money in your pockets right now because we watch the games. We go to the stadium and watch the games. We spend the money. We buy the jerseys and the paraphernalia and the hats and all this, the expensive tickets. We buy all that stuff. So give us something decent in return. Give us something worth watching. That's all I'm asking. All right, guys, if you agree with me or disagree, let me know. Comment below. Let me know how you're feeling. Until next time.